Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Retire Well, brought to you by the team of Citizen Advisory Group. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is the owner and financial advisor, Kevin Bucher, and financial advisor, Pete Samanuk. We've got a great show for you today. We're so glad you're joining us. We're going to be talking about transition and change, two words that characterize retirement and the journey of going to and through your retirement. There's so much to know, and we want you to be able to navigate through these transitions and changes successfully. So Kevin, Pete, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. I have to say, I think we look like the two roses with the thorn in between us, our bright colors.
Contrast, right?
But it's a great jacket. It's a great jacket. I love it. Aw. Well, really, I mean, we like to have a lot of fun on this show, and really what you do, though, day in, day out, it's serious business for folks. You're helping to plan folks' financial futures and make sure that they can navigate to and through retirement successfully, and that's no small task.
Yeah, and you know, we go through life in a lot of ways with our clients, and so one of the great benefits of that is we get to retire over and over again. So we've retired hundreds of times with clients, but the reality is we walk through the stages of life, and sometimes that's not so pretty. You know, we're there when there's a loss of spouse. We're there when things are going south, as well as to celebrate the good times, and there's plenty of good times as well. You know, as a financial advisor that prides our firm on the customer service and the family atmosphere that we've created, we do walk through life. There's a lot of blessings that come with that. So we're just very grateful and thankful that we have the opportunity to do that.
Yes, and you've seen so many transitions, so many changes. You often know what to anticipate for folks before they even get there, and I think that that's a huge blessing because you only retire once. But as Kevin said, Kevin, Pete, the entire team of Citizen Advisory Group have helped thousands of people navigate successfully to and through their retirement. So that's what we wanted to talk about today, are some of the transitions and the changes and the challenges that come with that so that you can be as prepared as possible. So first up on our list today, we need to talk about market risk and really the concept of risk, because it's interesting. A lot of folks have no idea how much risk they are currently taking with their investments. And there's an important shift that needs to happen as someone approaches and enters retirement. So let's talk about that. First off, from a risk perspective, what do you often see when folks come in and meet with you for the very first time?
Yeah, I mean, so the market risk, I mean, it is your top two risks in retirement. I mean, their financial planning is having too much market risk. So a lot of times what we're finding as people are coming in is the amount of risk you're taking is not aligned with your goals or what your plan is, right? So you might have someone that they're like, hey, I'm retiring in 6 months, and they have 100% risk, right? They have like 100% stock in their portfolio, and you're sitting there thinking, well, why? And they're like, well, my 401k, they're managing it, right? But what it's important to remember, right? When you have your 401ks and accounts that no one's looking at, you're the advisor, right? You're the one that's making those directions. So a lot of times, you know, I think people think someone is keeping an eye out on those investments and what the risk tolerance is, but really it's you. And if you haven't had a chance to review that or sat down with a planner, we oftentimes find that that's way misaligned with what someone's trying to do.
For sure. Well, I think the problem can stem back as early as when someone gets their first job. And so a quick funny story, you know, my husband's a public school teacher, and when we got together, I was looking at his 403B, and I said, how did you pick what you were going to invest in? He said, well, I don't know. I didn't understand a thing they said to me. I just looked at the guy next to me and I put down whatever he put down, right? I mean, people do that, and then fast forward, they haven't looked at it 20, 30, 40 years. They have no idea what they're in, and it may not be the best fit for them, especially at that stage of life.
Yeah, and I think one of the concepts of that is something called style drift. And so, you know, I think when maybe you sat down and you did look at your investment portfolio, and you might have had a certain mix of investments that you were targeting, but if that's not reviewed and updated on a regular basis, these things are drifting because the performance across different types of investments is varying. And I think that's something to be really cognizant of right now.
Yes.
Because we've looked at, it's a great thing. We've looked at extremely strong stock market performance. There was a step back in 2022, but we saw really strong performance in 19, 20, 21, 23, 24. We saw really strong performance. So what that means is the equity portion of your portfolio is growing and disproportionate to the rest. And as your equity portion is growing, you're actually taking on more and more risk. So, you know, we would look at that as, hey, there's not a better time to take some of the risk off the table than when you're in these very strong market times.
Yes.
Because you'll be taking some of your investment gains and putting them in a more protected place.
Right.
So we have to be very aware of style drift and make sure that we're having our accounts rebalanced on a regular basis.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, Kevin, because the fact that so many folks weren't aware of this, weren't cognizant of it prior to 2008, hadn't rebalanced their portfolios, that's why it was absolutely devastating for so many people, right?
Yeah. So, and what Kevin was talking about, I mean, is that we've seen these equity markets, they've performed so well over the past 5 and 10 years. Yeah, he's talking about the needs need to shift as you're approaching retirement too, right? It's different for someone that's 20, 25. Take all the risk in the world on, right? I mean, you're putting money in, you're going to be able to afford the time for a bad stock market cycle. But, you know, as we're approaching retirement, we do need to be very, very cognizant of what type of risk we're taking and how much, because like you said, in 2008, 2001, that was just devastating to people. That's when people had to go back to work.
Yep.
They had to change their lifestyles completely.
Yep.
You know, there were just a multitude of things, and retirement didn't work for a lot of those people, or at least the plans that they had laid out.
Right, for sure. Well, when someone comes in to meet with you all for the first time, how do you help them accurately assess what their current risk tolerance is and or should be? Maybe their risk capacity is a good way to put it too at that stage of life.
Yeah, so I think there's 3 really key parts to determining what is the proper allocation for your investment strategy. So Pete used this word, and it's a really important word, and it's time. So time horizon is extremely important, because I think we would all agree that if we have enough time and we can look at long enough samples of the stock market, over time the stock market shows that it performs and provides good returns. Now, there's no guarantees it'll do that in the future, but when we look back at history and we look at certain windows of time, if they're long enough, the stock market delivers. But what if our windows of time are not long enough and there's going to be these short-term drops? So we have to understand the time horizon. Then the second 2 parts of that are risk tolerance. So that's all about your emotions.
Yep.
So how comfortable are you with the market swings? And then you used risk capacity. Well, that's how much risk can you actually afford to be taking within your plan. So if I'm relying on the stock market to deliver income for me that's going to put food on my table and a roof over my head, well, I can't take on a whole lot of risk. My risk capacity would be low. But if my investment portfolio is not really needed to do those things and it's more for extras, well, I have the capacity to take on more risk because it's not meant to cover those necessities of life.
Right, and it's all completely based on what your goals are, right? So like Kevin was saying, I mean, it's not just age-based. I think we all think, oh, I'm 60 or 65 or even 70, I need to have this portfolio that's in line with my age. And it's really not so much a function of age, but what your goals are and what you're trying to do.
Yes.
You know, I might have a 50-year-old that needs less risk than a 70-year-old because they're retiring early. They have a plan to retire at 55.
Yep.
They need that money from their accounts to live on. Their risk tolerance might be different than the 70-year-old that's not counting on their money and all they want to do is grow the money for their kids, right? I mean, it's just all
different
completely
goals.
goal-based instead of just where your age is.
Sure.
Well, and I'm not sure I exactly answered your question. So how do we help people assess that? It really comes down to talking your language. And, you know, I think the advisor world is very guilty of using terminology and not really speaking the language of those that are seeking our help and guidance. So when we're talking about risk, I think it's important to kind of qualify how much risk you're taking using real dollars and cents as opposed to percentages.
Yes, that makes a big difference, right?
Yes. So, for example, if I said the way your portfolio is currently structured, it looks like you're subject to maybe up to a 20% loss. Well, that might sound okay, but then when I put that into dollar terms, and if that 20% equals 100,000 or 200,000, I don't know that many people that are that comfortable with losing that type of money. So, when we put it into terms of real dollars, I think it really helps answer that question about how much risk risk are you individually comfortable with taking with your investment portfolio?
Yeah, for sure.
And what does that mean to you as an individual too, right? I mean, does that mean, am I going to be okay?
Yes.
Right, I might have people, they take 20% loss and they're still gonna be okay. Their
Right.
goals are still being met.
Yeah.
But there's people that they might take a 20% loss or more, and now you're not going to be okay. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of language we're trying to get to people too.
For sure.
Is what does that mean to you individually?
Yes, because it's all relative, and that's the important part, is what does this mean to you?
Yep.
So I know that you all are offering your complimentary retirement checkpoint review. Talk about how that plays into this conversation of risk.
Yeah, so that retirement checkpoint review is going to take into account your investment portfolio, how much risk you're taking. It's going to take into account what investment allocation should you be in to reach what your retirement objectives are to deliver the type of retirement income you need. So it's going to cover all across the 5 areas of financial planning of investments, income, taxes, insurance, and then your legacy and estate plan to make sure that you have all of your areas buttoned up and you have a coordinated, cohesive plan so that you can live the retirement that you've intended to live and really just get everything in order for you. So pick up the phone and call today to schedule that retirement checkpoint review so that you can get on the right path.
Wonderful. Kevin, Pete, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is there on the bottom of your screen, 866-630-1675. Or if you'd rather connect online, we've got you covered. Simply pull out your smartphone, and if you open up that camera app, you can point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Citizen Advisory Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary retirement checkpoint review that way as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Do you own an annuity? Are you aware what type of annuity you own? For years, annuities have been a cornerstone of retirement planning, but they're not all created equal, and your current annuity might not be serving your retirement goals. The good news is rising interest rates could mean better guarantees and better benefits for your annuity. If your annuity is not working for you, wouldn't you like to know sooner than later? Call now for your complimentary annuity review.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Well, welcome back to Retire Well. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Kevin and Pete from Citizen Advisory Group, and a great conversation we are having today about a lot of the changes and transitions that need to happen with retirement. We covered the importance of looking at your risk tolerance and, even more importantly, your risk capacity with your money in that first segment. And I have one more question for you guys on that subject. I know that you often meet with a lot of spouses, a lot of married couples, and traditionally, usually, there's one who might have a different risk tolerance than the other. I know that's true in my own marriage. It's probably true in some of your situations as well, right? So how do you help spouses navigate this conversation if maybe, the husband has one risk tolerance and the wife has another?
So you're right. It's a very common scenario where one individual might be a little more comfortable with the ebbs and flows of the markets than the other. So I just use a real client example of someone that I recently worked with. And so the wife in this situation, she had a very low risk tolerance and wasn't really comfortable with taking on a lot of market risk compared to the husband, which was much more comfortable with trying to get bigger returns and investing in the market. So ultimately, at the end of the day, once I understood what their longer term goals and objectives were, I was able to discuss with them putting together a plan that would give the safety and security that the wife was looking for. And once we have properly allocated to provide that safety and security that made her feel comfortable, we were then able to invest a little more aggressively. So we were able to really accommodate what both of the individuals were looking for, because the wife got the safety and security and knew that she was going to be okay, but the husband was able to roll the dice with some of these funds and try to get some bigger returns. And maybe the roll of the dice is too aggressive of a word. We could invest a little more aggressively to try to get higher returns.
Right.
But they were both happy with the way we were able to put that together for them. And that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish. We've got to spend some time. We've got to get to know you and what you're looking for and what you're comfortable with. And usually you can put together a solution that's going to make both parties happy and feel comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it's about. And often it's you all providing the safe space to facilitate those kinds of conversations that they can get on the same page, right?
And sometimes husband and wife have to compromise a little bit too.
Sure, yeah.
And that comes with marriage.
Yep, it does. In all areas,
yes.
including finance.
And it's part of our job. I mean, we have
Right.
all the time. I think what most people would consider uncomfortable situations, but we have to deal with a lot. I mean, a lot of times we're answering. Spouses are having conversations with each other and answering questions to each other that they've never talked about.
Right.
They've never even addressed these issues with each other.
Yes.
And now we're asking the questions, it's coming up, and
Right.
and they kind of look at each other and say, oh, that, okay.
Right.
And so it is challenging, but
Yeah.
it is our job to kind of navigate that and ask the
Right.
tough questions.
Well, it's you doing your due diligence
Correct.
to make sure that you are giving the best advice possible you can
Correct.
for them, for
Yep.
sure. Well, we are talking today about transitions and changes that come with retirement. And one of the ones that we have to be able to navigate, I think back to previous generations, it used to be that folks struggled just to get to retirement. Well, now the struggle is to get through retirement. We are living longer than we ever have before. And I think of the sweet woman in Houston, Texas. There was an article that came out this summer. Elizabeth Francis, she turned 115 years old. But the best part of the story is that she lives with her 95-year-old daughter. I don't know if you all saw that in the news, but so cute, right? But here's the issue. When we are living longer than we ever have before, no wonder folks are afraid of running out of money. We have to plan for a much longer time span now.
Yeah, and the reality is statistics would say, I mean, these numbers just, they've come out for 2023, is that we are living longer, right? We're keeping people alive longer, we're living longer.
Yep.
And that means a lot of things. And the thing I'm gonna kind of focus on right now with longevity risk, it's a risk multiplier. Yeah, you're gonna live longer, so there's a greater chance that you're gonna outlive your money. There's a greater chance that inflation is gonna get worse. There's a greater chance that you're going to go through multiple bad market cycles, but there's a lot greater chance that you're going to need long-term care, like a nursing home stay. And the new numbers, 70% of people, 7 in 10 people turning 65 today have a disability or an illness serious enough to require a long-term care stay. And that's one of the main things with longevity risk is what is your plan for long-term care? Is it even part of your plan? It really is the number one risk with longevity is needing care, and
Yes.
it's just not being addressed.
Well, I feel like longevity risk is the big risk that's kind of the biggest domino, if you will, that can set off all these other risks, right? Because to your point,
Right.
the longer you live, the potential that you might need more health care, that you're probably going to need long-term
Yep.
care.
Yep.
And so, again, that just perpetuates all these things.
Yeah, and if you're going to pass away at 70 or 75, you should probably just start spending all your money now, right? You don't really have any risk. It's very easy to
we
plan
don't
for an
know.
individual.
Yeah.
You don't know, right?
Right,
That's what
yeah.
we're doing. It's very easy to plan for a short life.
Right.
It's the long life that we're
Yes.
kind of concerned with.
So I think the important thing to point out about longevity risk is that there are solutions to combat longevity risk. And I think we're in a prime window right now, given where interest rates are and product availability, that we can deal with interest or longevity risk in a really good way.
Meaning strategies to help ensure someone's money is going to last them for the rest of their life,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yes. So we can put forth solutions so Social Security is a component of that, right? So Social Security is a lifetime payment. So we have to make
Right.
sure that you're making wise decisions around Social Security, because
Yep.
that payment is going to continue to you, whether you're 110 or 114 or 115.
Yep.
So Social Security planning plays into that. And then your portfolio withdrawal strategy. We have to be able to sustain withdrawals. And I would argue your basic necessities, maybe we need to use some contractual guarantees to knock out the longevity risk, because you're right, it's a risk multiplier. If we deal with it up front, we can do it at a discounted price.
Right.
And it gives you now permission to spend and enjoy some of your other resources.
Yes, risk multiplier. That's a good way to put it for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, when you do the retirement checkpoint review for folks, again, this is completely complimentary. How in depth are you going to get with all these different things that we've covered so far?
Yeah, so we need to start with kind of your retirement and your income plan, because we do feel like there's some boxes to check first. But yeah, as we get into some of our, we've talked about the risks of retirement, our longevity risk and our insurance risk. That's part of our retirement checkpoint review, right? We're going to do the investments. We're going to look at the income planning, but we're going to look at your risk planning as well. And that includes the insurances and some of those things that Kevin was talking about that makes sure that longevity is not a problem for you.
Yeah, for sure. Because we know that number one fear of most folks is running out of money. And this is what the review is designed to do, is to help ease that fear and put a plan together so that you can be confident that you are not going to outlive your money. So if any of this is resonating with you, if you would like help navigating successfully through these different changes and transitions, we invite you to pick up the phone and call that number you see on the bottom of your screen to claim your very own complimentary retirement checkpoint review. 866-630-1675. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some other transitions and changes and how you can be prepared to navigate those successfully right after this.
Imagine not having to face your retirement with the same old corporate solutions as everyone else. In these economic times, you deserve a fresh perspective that includes a personalized retirement income plan, investment portfolio analysis, and tax map from an independent fiduciary advisor whose focus is on you. Call the number you see here to schedule your complimentary review right now.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Kevin Bucher of Citizen Advisory Group. If you have amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. We specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, legacy planning, and so much more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and written financial plan.
Welcome back to Retire Well, where today we are discussing several of the significant transitions and changes that occur as someone approaches and enters retirement, because we want you to be able to navigate through those successfully. We brought up the retirement checkpoint review in the previous segment. Talk a little bit more about what folks can expect with that process.
Okay, so we're going to walk through all 5 of the areas, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go step by step through the areas, and we're going to kind of identify where are there missing pieces or gaps, or where can there be some improvements. And that generally is going to start with looking at the retirement income plan. And unfortunately, generally what we find is that there is not a current retirement income plan in place. And so that is one of the very first action items that we have to start addressing, is building out that retirement income plan, because it's actually really hard to do some of the other pieces of the retirement checkpoint review without that. Yep. So for example, if we don't have this retirement income plan, it's really hard to tackle tax planning, because we don't really have any idea of what the future looks like from an income standpoint to do the tax planning. So that process, we're going to walk through all 5 of the areas and kind of identify what's missing, where can we help, where can we add some value. And it does start with that retirement income plan. It's such a critical piece.
Yes, for sure. Yep. Well, we're talking today about these emotional changes and transitions, but that's a perfect segue to what we want to talk about next, which is the emotional and the psychological transition that comes with retirement. You know, one of my mentors always said that personal finance is more personal than finance, and that's really true. And I know that you have helped hundreds of folks, thousands of people retire successfully. This is a huge piece of your job, is helping people navigate the emotional component as well. So talk about that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was our intention to talk about, I think, what I'm going to lead into, but the retirement is not just about the numbers, right? And that's kind of what, like, one of the pillars for us. We have the 3 pillars. It's about our financial planning, and then our health and wellness, and then our social engagement too, right? So all the time, I mean, I'm sitting on this side of the table and looking at people, and they have well more than enough money to retire. I mean, like twice as much as they would need. I'm like, you spend this much, we can get you this much, and they like won't retire. And it's not the numbers that's getting them, it's the psychological of, this is who I am, right? I've built a career, I've built an identity, I go to work every day, I have a routine, I get a paycheck. And it's just so much more than just the numbers, right? So we've learned kind of over time that you have to get yourself emotionally prepared, you have to continue to be engaged in social interactions, you have to continue to stay healthy and things like that.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think over the years, I've had the honor of working with a lot of people that have walked through this journey, and you know, I've worked with a lot of households where they absolutely thrive in retirement. You know, they exit the workforce, they've got the time to go out and do everything that they've wanted to do, and they're going out and embracing retirement, and they fill their calendar with all these things, and they're really just enjoying and thriving retirement. But I also work with some people that really struggle with this transition, and one of the things I like to just say to people I'm working with is that it's really important that you retire, and you retire to something. And that doesn't mean that you have to retire to another full-time job or another career, but you really do have to spend some time and think through what you want your retirement to look like and what you want to spend your time on.
Yes.
And you know, there's so many negative consequences to retiring to the recliner.
Yes.
And so
going cutting cold turkey, and you lose your sense of identity with that, right? Your social engagement, all the things. Yep.
Yeah, that just can't be a good solution. It
Right.
affects your mental health, it affects your physical health.
Yes.
So having some idea of what you want to retire to, what you're passionate about, that could be just family. Maybe it's just spending more time with family, or it could be organizations or activities. But you really do need to have something that you're ready to retire to, that when you wake up in the morning, you still have that sense of purpose, you have some passion about what you want to go and do. And it doesn't have to be every day, it can be all on your terms,
Yeah.
but don't underestimate that psychological shift of going from the workforce to retirement. Because again, I've had the privilege of watching several people thrive in retirement, but I do know that some people struggle with that transition, so we have to have some solutions.
And I'm going
for
to
that.
quickly put into this, and you might not know what it is you want to retire to or what
Yeah.
the options are. We help people do that.
Yes, you help
That's
people
one of the
dream
big
again,
things.
right? Yeah.
And we, with Sarah at our office and her team, our entire marketing team, they help people figure out what are some of the options to do in retirement? What are some of the activities, the things we can get involved in? That's a major piece of what we do.
Yes, and again, just another thing that sets you all apart, and I know I'm excited for more folks to get to navigate successfully to and through their retirements as a result of today's program. So thank you both so much.
you.
And thank you for being here. Again, that number to call to claim your complimentary retirement checkpoint review, 866-630-1675. We love you. Thanks for joining us. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we'll see you next time here on Retire Well.